For me, Limassol is the Miami of the Mediterranean.
Those two cities, Paphos and Larnaca, are very good for investors in both ways. You will get a good return of your investment when you rent it out. So I would expect higher than 6%. And of course, you will get all the capital appreciation because these two cities started growing exponentially over the last 2 years.
Limassolians feel that they have been totally outpriced, outmarketed, and something needs to be done.
We are only 1 million locals. Imagine if the international investors are also 1 million or 700,000 or 500,000. It instantly distorts politics.
After 7 years, when they get the citizenship, they will be allowed to vote.
So
they will have their own parties.
You can find lots of bargains in Nicosia. So there are lots of undervalued properties in Nicosia, which not only will give you capital appreciation because you will buy them at 30% discount, but also the return on investment on the rental, of course, will be higher than the 5 or 6%.
And then when you add the EU buyers, it could be more than 50% of the property sales.
I think it should be around 60 or 65%.
Yes.
As Cypriots, we need to have a plan in order to mitigate any unpleasant outcomes of all this foreign incoming investment in our country. So why not increasing the prices? So, we are shooting ourselves on the foot. We need to take as a society measurable and calculated practical steps to avoid all this.
In this episode, we'll answer the question that everyone relocating to Cyprus asks: which city is the best to move to? Which city has the best lifestyle for your specific needs? And where is it best to invest for high returns? Is it Limassol, Paphos, Larnaca, Nicosia, or the coastal villages of Famagusta and Protaras? Every Cypriot will tell you that their city is the best. And in fact, every city in Cyprus is completely unique, which is strange for such a small island. In this episode, we'll attempt to break it all down and find out which city wins in business, in lifestyle, and investment. I'm Pavlina Papalouka, business relocation consultant and property investment connector.
And I'm Kyriakos Tramountanellis, Cyprus tax and relocation expert and licensed auditor. In this episode of FinHub podcast, we'll give you the real data, property sales, cost of living, business opportunities, and our honest opinions as experienced Cypriot professionals and business owners. By the end of the episode, you will know enough about Cyprus cities and lifestyle to make the best decision for you. If you're planning to move, set up a company, or invest in Cyprus, or if you're already in Cyprus and are looking for expert accountants, lawyers, property and immigration experts, head to finhub.com.cy. Fill in your details and we'll connect you with the top vetted professionals. Third country nationals purchased 27% of the Cyprus properties in 2024. Another article says everyone now is buying used properties. Another article says here that Paphos leads in foreign property demand. Foreign buying frenzy hits Cyprus. Pavlina, what's going on here in Cyprus? Why everyone is buying properties? Are Cypriots able to afford the properties? Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this, and I have all the data and all the numbers, which are very telling. Okay. Actually, foreign demand in Cyprus right now is shifting entire cities, and it's giving pressure to the government to do something about it. But let's go and see the numbers, because when you see the numbers, you will be able to understand what's happening in each city. So like you said, according to the Audit Office of the Republic of Cyprus, in 2024, roughly 27% of all property sales were officially registered to non-EU nationals, which means this was probably driven by the permanent residency program that we have now in Cyprus that requires a minimum of 300,000 investment plus VAT. Now, the highest concentration of those non-EU nationals were in Paphos, 44%, led by the British. And then Larnaca, 34% non-EU sales, property sales going to non-EU buyers.
Followed, I think, by 26% in Limassol and Famagusta, which is very interesting stats. These are very interesting stats because actually they are accurate. It makes sense. That's why we see so many internationals from those countries in those cities.
What's interesting is also who is buying in each city, because it's shaping the demographics, the vibe and the culture of the city. When we go to Nicosia, for example, it's just 8% non-EU nationals buying, very few foreigners, and the foreigners overall, if we add the Europeans in Nicosia, they are Greeks who buy.
Wow.
So Nicosia, because I'm from Nicosia and you're from Nicosia, has not changed. When I come back to Nicosia, because I've lived in Limassol and I've lived in Paphos, when I come back to Nicosia, I see that Nicosia has not shifted the culture over the past 20, 30 years at all. It's how I left it, I love it.
I think it's fair to say that Nicosia is the only Cypriot city in Cyprus, and maybe this will remain the case in the coming years.
Yes, I think it will remain because we don't have the beach and we're more of the capital. It's led by corporate demand. And then, according to the Department of Lands and Surveys, the Cyprus property market grew another 13% in the first part of 2025, okay, which is going to be higher by the end of the year. And we have a year-by-year increase of around 15% over the past 5 years. So Cyprus is growing really fast and the city demographics are changing. Now,
is this a good thing or a bad thing?
So we're gonna discuss it. I think it's a good thing if we manage what's going on with the locals and we manage who buys. I think all the locals agree with that. How much foreigners can buy, how much locals can buy, what incentives does the government give to locals to buy. They started introducing some incentives, but it's definitely not enough.
We get a lot of comments of frustration in our channels, at our FinHub channels, because affordability is a key issue for the locals. And a simple example, Limassol already has so much traffic. This growth year on year is not sustainable. Imagine yourself going at the beach in Famagusta now in the summer. You can barely find an empty spot. What will happen year on year when this growth continues? So we're going to have operational issues besides the inflated prices of properties, of goods, of services. We're going to have many more issues which are of logistical nature. Hospitals.
Yeah, so
how many patients can our hospitals take?
I think for me, the ideal incentive, if somebody from the government is watching, is to not focus for the residency only on properties, to give some incentives for investors to go into other types of investments, to hire locals in those businesses,
yes,
in those hospitals, in those schools, to be a minimum percentage of locals, but a strong one.
Yes.
And to give certain minimum salaries and certain bigger incentives to Cypriots when they buy. Because when you go to Limassol right now, and I've lived in Limassol for many years, I see the shift over the past 5 years. And when I talk to Cypriots now, they feel that Limassol has been divided in two. There is a part for those who know Limassol, towards Paphos side, that half, from Cypriot Stadium
yes,
onwards. Zakagi and those areas are all the traditional Limassolians, and then from Cypriot down to the beach is all bought by Russians and foreigners. And it's not that Limassolians are not welcome to foreigners, but inside of them they are frustrated because they see those wealthy people buying the luxury properties, because Limassol is driven by the luxury demand. The prices are similar to buying in Miami. For me, Limassol is the Miami of the Mediterranean. That's how I see Limassol. Some people say Dubai. I cannot compare it to Dubai. But then you have these Russians and Ukrainians who are very wealthy and they just want the lifestyle. They buy a 2-bedroom apartment with sea views for 2 million, and Limassolians feel that they have been totally outpriced, outmarket, and something needs to be done. So if you live in Limassol, you might feel that pressure and that division right now.
I think it's starting in other cities as well. Limassol is, of course, the main city of Cyprus. Is the city that had the most development. It's overpopulated right now. Lots of tech companies, lots of investment firms, lots of forex companies there, lots of internationals relocated there. But I mean, now we see companies setting up their headquarters or their company premises in other cities. Larnaca now is picking up, but let's dive into the specifics. Let's assess city by city and let's see the parameters too, so that our audience will understand better and make an informed decision whether they are corporates or individuals who want to relocate here for a better lifestyle and, of course, tax savings.
According to the land registry data and the audit department, the 27% of property sales went to non-EU nationals. However, some of these people who are buying their Cyprus companies, so the percentage is higher. It's more than 35% of non-EU nationals buying in Cyprus because some of them buy under Cyprus companies.
Most of them, because it makes sense. Yes.
And then when you add the EU buyers, it could be more than 50% of the property sales.
I think it should be around 60 or 65%.
Yes.
Because the Cypriots cannot afford, I don't know many people in Cyprus. Let's break it down per city, for instance.
Yes. I don't know.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah.
So overall, around Cyprus, 50% of property sales went to foreigners. Overall, all foreigners, including Europeans. So Paphos has the highest foreign ownership density in Cyprus of over 40%, with strong retirement and investment market for Europeans and Middle Eastern buyers. They prefer it for permanent residencies. And of course, for retirements, it's very popular for many years with the Brits. So people in Paphos buy for lifestyle, residency, retirement. Sales in Paphos, according to the land registry data between 2021 and 2025, show that the buyers were Brits, Russians, Israelis, Greeks, Romanians, Chinese, Ukrainians, Germans, and some Americans. And then Limassol has the highest foreign market demand, especially for the luxury property sales, as we said before. That's why when you go to Limassol, you see the highest concentration of luxury cars in the streets.
You see skyscrapers everywhere. You see wealth. You can feel the wealth because it's the way people walk, what they wear, what they drive, and where they reside, of course.
It's obvious, the difference.
And some people say that the cost of purchasing a luxury flat in Limassol, in one of the towers, could be equivalent to New York, in Fifth Avenue,
Miami,
and
London
all the most
right
expensive
now.
destinations.
Yes, like a 2-bedroom apartment with nice views, not a spacey one, but nice views in a nice area close to the beach, not even on the beach, on a luxury building, high quality building, 1 million, because you have the views. In the same apartment, you will find it in Nicosia for maximum 350,000. Of course, you don't have the sea views, but you can have views in Nicosia. Definitely you can have.
You have other nice views, of course.
Views and sunset and the weather. And then in Larnaca, you can find it maybe for, I don't know, even less, 250,000.
Yes. Even though Larnaca right now is hot and there is lots of investing activity from Lebanese people and Israeli people. So if you're interested in investing, Larnaca is a good place for your capital appreciation and high returns of investment. Because now it has a momentum and it's always good to grab the momentum at the beginning.
So let's see who is buying in Limassol and Larnaca then. Limassol, of course, demand is led by Russians. Then we have Brits, Israelis, Greeks, Romanians, Chinese go to Limassol a lot now, Ukrainians. It's a Russian-speaking city. Germans and Americans.
But then, it's good, as you've mentioned, though, these are the usual suspects, but the majority of the people who live there are Russians.
Russian-speaking.
Russian-speaking, yes.
Russian
the community is around 120,000 Russian-speaking, and these facts could be even higher, I don't know.
So this will be your neighbors, this will be the people you will see everywhere, and if you invest in a property there for a return, this will be your renters. It will be some Cypriots.
High-level, high-value renters. Whilst in Paphos, as you mentioned, yes, there are many nationalities, but of course, the majority of them are British, and they are retired people or people close to retirement where they want to live in a nice and peaceful environment.
So can you tell me about Larnaca? Who is buying in Larnaca? I see that it's increased demand for Israelis now. What
Israelis and Lebanese. These two nations started investing heavily in Larnaca. Some of them are also developing themselves properties and selling them to
Imagine a city in Cyprus. It's very weird
Yes.
that the Israelis and the Lebanese, they live together in peace.
Yes,
This is
yes.
what the mayor told me in a recent interview.
Yes.
Like they have their churches next to each other, the synagogue and the
This is
Christian
a
church.
modern lifestyle that we are living. This is the
Yeah.
modern world we are living.
Yeah.
There is no legislation to prevent them from coming to Cyprus and becoming developers themselves. So they can invest the money. We can talk about it later.
We will talk
on,
about it, yes, because now there is pressure for that. But let's go into the numbers. So Larnaca is Russians, Brits, Israelis, the Lebanese, Germans are buying in Larnaca, and then Nicosia. It's very strange. Most of the foreigners who buy in Nicosia are Greeks, which for us are not really foreigners because we feel like Greeks. And then it's a lot of Cypriot diaspora who is coming back. They come back to Nicosia. And then we have some Brits, Australians, Americans, Bulgarians, Lebanese.
Nicosia is mostly for domestic and corporate buyers. It's a normal, as we've said, is the only Cyprus. As we've said, it's the only Cypriot city right now in Cyprus. The majority of the population there are locals. It's ideal for families. It has a culture. It's the capital of Cyprus, of course. It's ideal for people who want slow rhythms, more quality, less fuss. And of course, it has a lot of great parks, big parks everywhere, and big mountains. So you can enjoy yourself with nice views, mountain views, and of course, beautiful walks during the weekends and exercise at these big parks that we have.
Yes, the parks in Nicosia are beautiful actually, and they've developed a lot the past few years. Let's go to Famagusta area. You spend a lot of time in Famagusta,
Yes.
which is the Paralimni Protaras area, Agia Naba. It's driven by holiday markets, not all year round.
It's not all year round, but now it's around 6 to 8 months. I mean, the season now is much more than 3 months. It's 6 to 8 months. I mean, people are still going to the beach. Now it's October, it's early November, and people are still swimming. So the market there is driven by people who love the seaside, actually.
Nationalities, what do you see who are buying?
I see a mixture of nationalities. You have some British who are retirees there, but of course we have Americans, we have Israelis buying there, we have some Lebanese buying there, we have some Italians buying there, we have some Central Europeans and
Germans
buying there. So I would say
and
that
even Israelis have started going to, let's say, Ayia Napa Marina, and some Russians.
in Famagusta, you cannot pinpoint on a specific nationality that really likes the place. It boils down to the person. If they are a sea person, if they like to be with people, young people, lots of tourists, lots of things to do, but only for 6 to 8 months. That's the place they go to, and of course they buy big properties, even properties more expensive than Limassol, especially the value there is higher than in Limassol because the value of your purchase is better because you're buying bigger plots, bigger apartments, bigger houses at the best and most beautiful seafront of Cyprus.
For you, it's the most beautiful. For me, maybe it's Paphos right now. For other people, it could be Limassol because Limassol has a huge varieties, huge coastline.
Yes, but we're talking objectively. Award-winning beaches are only in Famagusta. So this is not my opinion, it's factual.
Have you been to Coral Bay in Paphos recently?
I don't like it really because I prefer to swim in much nicer seaside.
You haven't
in
been?
Famagusta.
Oh my God, we're gonna have a fight here.
No,
anyway.
I used to go, but I don't like it. I prefer sweeter waters and more cleaner waters. And those waters can only be found in Famagusta and of course in Paphos at Lachi. But there is no investment in those areas in Paphos.
However, when you go to Lachi to live and you go to Famagusta to live, in the winter it's dead.
Both, of course, it's dead. That's why we said 6 to 8 months. Then you need to be it depends on the investor, because we're talking about investors, Pavlina. These people travel the world, so they are enjoying the good stuff at the good times, and then they leave. So in the winter, they leave and they go to other destinations to conduct their businesses or their holidays.
Yes, if you want your house to be sitting there, not be rented out all year round, or to be rented out only during high season, yes, Famagusta can work for you. But if you want all year round demand and rentals of your house, if you're not going to live in it and you're going to have it sitting, then Paphos would be better for a holiday home. And
it all depends on the property, because in Famagusta there are luxury houses at the beachfront, which rent maybe 3 times more than in Paphos. So yes, you might be getting rental for half a year, but the amount of rental you will be collecting could be the same or more than if you have bought yourself a beachfront in Paphos, let's say. So it all depends on the actual property and the location of the property.
Great. So all of this, as we said, it's impacting the Cypriots. And for you watching, if you're watching from abroad or you're a Cypriot, there is pressure now on members of the parliament, on the government, and the audit department of the Republic of Cyprus is now suggesting new policies that will protect the economic, geopolitical, and strategic interest of the Republic of Cyprus. Because if too many people from one nationality start buying, then it starts to have a political dimension as well.
Everything gets complicated.
Yes.
We are only 1 million locals. Imagine if the international investors are also 1 million or 700,000 or 500,000. It instantly distorts politics. I mean, if these people have permanent residences, are they allowed to vote? We haven't touched on that. Maybe they will if they have Cyprus.
After 7 years, when they get the citizenship, they will be allowed to vote. They will have their own parties.
So everything can change. So as Cypriots, we need to have a plan in order to mitigate any unpleasant outcomes of all this foreign incoming investment in our country.
I think 2025 is a year when the pressure is becoming very strong on the government, and they have to do something. Yes. And they started announcing, yes, we are looking into new bills that will be voted. The Ministry of Interior has confirmed that there is a new bill being drafted, so we don't know the exact details, but it will tighten the controls and it will modernize the systems we have for monitoring who is buying and from where. So, for example, right now, I didn't know this a couple of years ago. I was not into what we're doing now, but now I have a lot of buyers from my business from outside the EU. When a non-EU national buys a property in Cyprus, it has to be approved by the government.
Interior,
yes,
of course.
So there is a queue.
Of course.
You buy the property, you pay, you give all the papers, you have your lawyer, and then you wait for the Ministry of the Interior to review your papers and say, yes, we are okay for this Israeli to move to Cyprus. But they can disapprove you if they find something that they don't like.
Yes.
And then
AML is subject to AML. Any sanctioned people are rejected, of course. Criminals, heavy criminal records and what have you. But earlier in our podcast, we said that 27% of properties are being sold to third country nationals, and we don't have a clue how many EU purchases take place either directly by individuals or by companies. So this is something that will definitely be in the new measures. And this is because the country and the Ministry of Interiors, of course, needs to know exactly the percentage of properties that are owned by third parties and non-Cypriots. It's very important because, as you've mentioned, the demographics are altered, logistics are impacted, and shortages everywhere can emerge. Hospital shortages, lots of traffic issues, lots of
the apartment shortages now, property shortages,
schooling shortages, all sort of shortages, and all this means higher costs because you have 5 schools to feed a whole, city. You're pushing the prices up because you can't do it. You do the same with all the stuff, with the housing as well.
So what do you think will happen based on what we see in the media, what they have announced? What will happen in the next few months, and what should people know about?
I think somehow who is becoming a developer here in Cyprus needs to be closer monitored. It's not, okay, we have an open market, but we need to protect, we're a small country, we need to protect the local infrastructure, the local developers, the local, the developing cycle and the property market cycle is very big. There are many people and parties working in this cycle. So this has to be protected. The land registry will become definitely stricter. It will be requesting more information from the Cyprus Registrar of Companies or the UBO registry so that they will know who owns these companies that they are investing. The Ministry of Interior might put some selection criteria as to who we would like to have in Cyprus. We want sophisticated people. We want,
They should, yes, because we want to raise the quality of life. So it depends what kind of people come into Cyprus.
There are many ways of getting money. There are illegal activities. There are legal activities. You could be a bright mind who created something beautiful and you got rewarded from the society. We need to know which kind of people we want to attract here. And of course, again, the Ministry of Finance with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, they need to think with all the municipalities how we will get rid of all this traffic, how we will sort out the shortages of schooling and of course of properties. Because this thing will be an issue in 2026. With the rhythm Cyprus and all the cities are growing, with all this foreign direct investment, we're going to have issues at all levels, that's for sure.
And I want to answer a question to some of my friends on social media who are very nice Russian Jewish people who are many years in Cyprus. And by the way, I want to say, Kyriakos, because I've been living in Limassol, the Russians have not gone into the government yet. They're very quiet when they come to Cyprus. But some other nationalities, they're a little bit more aggressive when they buy. And they want to have power locally. So why are Cypriots afraid of so many, let's say, Israelis buying big plots of land? It's because we are a country that has been through a lot with Turkey. We have been colonized by Turkey, part of the islands. And we know what happens when we lose the control. So we have this part of Cyprus, the free European part of Cyprus, that has maintained for centuries. Cyprus has maintained for centuries its culture, its customs, its Greek identity, its religion. And of course, we want to put a control culturally as well. I think that this is a little bit of a subconscious fear that the Cypriot has.
But it's very reasonable and it's very normal. Cyprus has never been independent for centuries. We have always been invaded by many empires throughout our history, and now we have managed to have a peaceful, long-term independence. And of course, politics is a very sensitive matter for all of us. So it touches a nerve when internationals enter the parliament, I would think, because we don't want them to serve their own agenda.
We have a history with that. Yes. We have a long history of people wanting to stay on the island and be in control, and we want to protect that. Cypriots, we are inherently very hospitable. We are friendly to all the religions and to everyone coming to our country. We generally don't tend to have issues. We did have issues with Turkey, and we still have issues.
We still have British military bases, which are used by the British alliances. So we don't want turbulences. We want to live a peaceful life here, and we don't want anything to change this. That's why we're very sensitive when internationals enter the political arena of Cyprus.
Great.
Let's talk about the juicy stuff, though. Let's talk about return on investments, capital appreciations.
That's the question I get mostly from my clients who want to buy a property in Cyprus. They watch our videos.
Of course.
They love the videos. They contact us and they're like, okay, I'm from the UK. I'm from Ireland. I'm from Iran. Anywhere. I want to invest in Cyprus. I love your island. I've been there for vacations once, twice maybe, and most of them, they haven't been at all. Where do I buy? Which city will offer me the highest return on my investment? Kyriakos, I will pass it on to you.
When we talk about return on investment, we talk about rental income versus the capital purchased of the plot or of the property. So right now, I believe the best return on investment is provided by the cities of Larnaca and Paphos. There is a momentum now in both cities for the same reasons.
But why? Because somebody from Limassol,
Yes.
I was with a developer from Limassol yesterday. They have a lot of money, a lot of investors, and they said they were considering Larnaca, but they don't want to touch Larnaca because they don't see a reason. Why? Because when they built in Limassol, and anything you invest in Limassol will have a stable demand from wealthy individuals. There will always be a Russian who wants to rent in Limassol and is willing to pay.
Yes, but we're talking about return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to rent to get a good return on investment on a flat or on a 100 square meter flat that you purchase for $1 million. I mean,
Yes.
how much will someone be paying you to live in a 2-bedroom flat?
Well, we see some rental prices for these flats, the
How
2-bedroom,
much?
€5,000 a month.
It's not enough. If the cost of the flat is $1 million, it doesn't make sense. So those two cities, Paphos and Larnaca, are very good for investors in both ways. You will get a good return of your investment when you rent it out. So I would expect higher than 6%. And of course, you will get all the capital appreciation because these two cities started growing exponentially over the last 2 years. Now, Limassol, of course, I would expect Limassol to be more like capital preservation and maybe some capital appreciation, even though we feel that without being experts, of course, we are locals, we're chartered accountants, we are economics, we're dealing with economics and finances every day. We feel that Limassol has reached the ceiling or is close of reaching the ceiling. I mean, prices cannot, they cannot touch the skies. At some point, it won't make sense for anyone to buy anything new in Limassol because they can get a better deal in New York, in London, in Munich, or in Paris, or in other great cities and capitals of the world. That's the only reason why I'm saying this.
I think where it makes sense in Limassol,
Yes.
and I've heard this from investors, they're looking into off-market. Like before something is built, if they buy at that stage, they can buy at a much lower cost than buy a finished apartment. So usually these Russians, they buy off-plan.
Off-plan is always a great deal as long as you are aware of the risks of the developer, because the developer might not be able to finish the property and you might end up having locked money and lots of adventures with courts until a solution, a court decision is made as to the way to mitigate this unfortunate event. Buying off-plan is always great in all the cities. So it doesn't matter in which city you're buying. Off-plan purchases could guarantee you a 15% capital appreciation, even if everything stays the same. Because you're buying before you see the product, you take the risk of having the product not being completed. Mm-hmm. The tower might not end. The funding might stop of the developer might get into trouble, any sorts of trouble. So for this risk, of course, you always get compensated when you're buying off-plan.
How often does this happen for somebody to get in trouble? Because we don't hear it so often in Cyprus anymore. But and how do you protect yourself
Very
from
good question. Very good
falling
question.
into this kind of traps?
Prior to 2013, all the banks were lending excessively to the developers. They were lending them 70% of their project value. They were using the money forgetting that they had to return them. So now the banks, following 2013, the banks are only lending out 30 to 35% to the developers. Therefore, the leverage is very low. It's very unlikely to have a developer going bust. Having said that, because we have such clients which invest in developers which buy properties. We have corporate clients and personal clients, physical people who buy either for relocation. They assign to audit and assurance firm like ourselves the due diligence of the developer. And this is very important. So even if a developer is everywhere in the media. Even if you drive your car and you see big signs of the developer, do you really know how much debt that developer has? Especially if you're buying off-plant. Because if you're buying off-plant, it means you will get your title deeds at best after 3 to 4 years. So you're taking a gamble that developer does not owe money, will not enter any adventure, and he or she will manage to complete without any issues and issue you the title deeds. So what investors do, they are assigned to us or to service providers, which they can find at finhub.com.cy. It's called financial conveyancing or financial due diligence. So they are assigned to a service provider, an experienced tax consultant, an experienced auditor, or an experienced lawyer, the task to review and ascertain whether the developer has any financial problems or if they are financially strong so that they can complete the project. And it makes sense because you only pay less than $5,000 and you get a report from a regulated service provider who express their opinion based on facts as to why this developer can complete the job.
Can you repeat the service name so that people can go on FinHub and request that service?
It's called due diligence on the developer, and it's part of the conveyancing process. So we are not going to go into conveyancing of how good the property is, the materials, and all that. We are doing the financial diligence of the actual developer who will create this building, this big residential unit or whatever. It's like financial forensics. We take the developer, we take their financial statements, we see whether their financial statements are in good health. We check to see if there are any public or adverse media against the developer. We check with the banks whether this developer has any problems.
How is it for developers to give their financials to accountants? Do they give it so easily?
They do not give it, but the financial information in Cyprus is public information, so accountants and auditors and, of course, tax consultants have access to this information. Of course, if a developer does not give you their financial statements, this is a red flag because, you will see how many loans they have. You will see how many sales they make every year. You can assess whether this is a strong company, a big company, or it's a small company that does a lot of marketing and appears to be big. You get a good insight from the financial statements, and if you cannot read them and understand them, of course, this is a task that finhub.com.cy can assist you with because you can place your inquiry there and get help from professionals who do this on a day-to-day basis.
Great. So there is coverage, and I've had people ask me and tell me, the developers in my country, they went bust. I want you to recommend me to some credible developers. I do my work, but then do your own due diligence with the lawyer accountant I will recommend you to, and invest in this because it's a protection.
There's no other way of knowing whether the developer is solid or not. It's not how they appear. Is not what you read in the press, is what their audited financial statements story says about their company.
So how about Nicosia then? We haven't talked about Nicosia, if it's a good investment, a good ROI, you left it out.
Nicosia is the capital of Cyprus, and as you would expect, the domestic demand is what pushes the prices up. There are less international investors in Nicosia, and therefore, actually, it's a very good investment right now. It has not yet been picked by the investors who are doing deals and transactions in other cities. And this is because the Nicosia economy is stable, it cannot burst, and it grows year on year at a lower pace than the rest of the cities.
Nobody can say Nicosia is a bubble because the growth has been very stable.
It's domestically driven.
Domestic driven. People have stable jobs. A lot of them work in the government, in banks, like we have in legal firms in Nicosia, accounting firms, like very stable jobs.
And of course, because the international investors have not yet put their eyes on Nicosia, you can find lots of bargains in Nicosia. So there are lots of undervalued properties in Nicosia, which not only will give you capital appreciation because you will buy them at 30% discount, but also the return on investment on the rental, of course, will be higher than the 5 or 6%. And personally, I see a big opportunity not only with the universities in Nicosia. We are having new universities coming at Nicosia, so units for students will be on demand. They are already in high demand, but they will also be in higher demand. But I would say also for corporates. And there are many opportunities for corporates as there's lots of space for big offices, and of course the rentals and the purchase price of these offices are very low and actually ridiculous when you compare them to Limassol. Mm-hmm. So why not having a big corporation relocating to Nicosia and bringing 300 people, 500 people, workforce to live in the beautiful capital and paying 1/5 either for the property purchase or for the rental and not going to Limassol. Of course, Limassol offers a different package, more internationals, more expense, more restaurants, more things to do.
Well, the beach, Kyriakos. Let's not forget the beach. You need to drive to the beach if you're in Nicosia for at least 40 minutes.
Of course. But if you are the owner of a big corporation and you care about your pocket, I think Nicosia is a bargain. And this, trust me, I mean, now we are in 2025, is something that will be picked up in the coming years.
I hear employees in Limassol complaining about their costs in any industry. So I think they would be very happy, especially these foreigners that move to Cyprus to work, they would be very happy to have their expenses by living in Nicosia with the same salary, the employees.
This is very common, and it's very good that you've touched on that, because the irony is that we have clients who are IT companies, and around 30% of their workforce are Limassolians. So there are people from Limassol who stay in Nicosia. They don't commute.
Yes. I mean, people are really frustrated when they hear the costs in Nicosia and they compare to Limassol. They're like, why am I in Limassol right now paying so much?
Imagine the irony. Limassol is the city of the tech companies, of the forex companies, of investment funds. So tech, let's say tech, and we have lots of people who are originally born in Limassol, raised and born in Limassol, working in Limassol, who have relocated to Nicosia and working for smaller technology companies in Nicosia. And some of them, actually, you have the other extreme, some of them live in Nicosia or in Larnaca and they work for the Limassol companies.
Yes, we do have people driving from Nicosia every day because they get a bigger salary in Limassol, but then they get
a clever thing to do.
To spend that salary in Nicosia, which is overall half the cost of living in Limassol. For me, easily, because I'm from Nicosia, but I've lived in Limassol.
We need to compare the cities and the rentals and everything, but it's very important in our analysis to state that we are talking about individuals or a couple, because when you have children, the cost goes up exponentially, especially in Limassol. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important factor. So if you are a family and you have children, I mean, do a good research on how much private school costs in Limassol, how much services like entertainment for kids, private classes for kids, football for kids, ballet, all this, how much they cost in Limassol and how much they cost in other cities. Because this will drive your family budget to the roof on month-by-month basis.
Not to mention the quality of universities we have in Nicosia is on a different level, so your kids can grow up in Nicosia, go to university now in Nicosia, become doctors, become anything they want.
Yes.
Personally, I studied in Nicosia, but many years ago when the private universities were launched before the University of Cyprus. But I'm generally very impressed by the University of Cyprus. I sometimes like to go into the library.
The amazing sceneries, amazing construction, amazing buildings. You think that you're in London or It's in a beautiful UK university.
Better than the university I was at in UK.
Likewise.
I don't wanna
Likewise.
throw shade at the UK university I went to. It was many years ago, but it's really beautiful. Let's go into people who are watching very quickly, who have a bigger investment amount to put in Cyprus, over 5 million, over 10 million, I would say.
Yes.
We talked before about the banks not lending to developers, and I know that many of the developers now, the big ones and the smaller ones, they get, instead of getting money from the bank, they get investors and they build. So investment into developers is very big now in Cyprus. But I would like us to go into the different types of investments that an investor can go into in Cyprus and say where it's best to invest in each city. And I would say affordable housing projects, luxury housing and apartments, villas. Then we have hotels, luxury hotels and mid-range hotels, commercial buildings, private schools, international private schools, universities, student housing, medical facilities, clinics, hospitals, shopping centers, and retail. So, Nicosia, where would you advise somebody to invest?
In Nicosia, I would advise people to invest in hospitals and big university and big student units, because Nicosia will be the capital of students.
Yes.
And it's growing.
It's endless.
It's endless.
Yes. And also residential housing, apartments for families, you will never lose, I believe, in Nicosia.
You will never lose, but if we're talking about big projects, I mean, it's a safe bet. Nicosia is a safe bet, whatever you invest and whatever you decide to build. But I think from an investor's point of view, I would see medical sector, I would see schooling, and I would see units for students. Maybe more luxurious student units than what the local developers are building. So you can push it a step up and have more unique student units with a bit more luxury to sell them or rent them higher. So this is Nicosia for me.
Limassol, where would you advise somebody to invest right now, over 10 million? Would you advise somebody to put it in a commercial building? Because there's so many companies relocating to Limassol. I know definitely if you're watching us, this is a plea from Cypriots. Invest in affordable housing in Limassol, affordable housing complexes, buildings, because...
But the investor will never do that because he wants to make a lot of money out of their investment.
So where would they make a lot of money in Limassol?
I would imagine that there will be a good demand for gated communities with luxury houses like the rest of Europe. So this has not yet took place. So I see that this is a good opportunity where a big developer can build a village like Aphrodite Hills, high value, high quality, gated communities, because let's put it simply, there isn't enough space or nice neighborhoods to build a nice house in Limassol. I'm not sure if the towers are still as profitable as they used to be. I can't express an opinion on that. I think we've stopped seeing new towers being raised. Because
there is no more space left. There is 2-3 spots left by the sea that new towers will be built.
It's a permit issue as well. It's how much space you have as well.
What I can tell you, Kyriakos, from my experience is that these towers are getting sold out. I've seen from the first big oval building that was built, was the first one. It was a commercial building. I was at the first presentation in 2017. It was sold out within a year before it was built.
Yes.
So those landmark spots in Limassol, there are very few left. So I believe if you invest before the building begins...
it requires a lot of research anyway to decide whether this is a good investment or not, because there are many towers. You know, the prices right now are off the roof, so I don't know if it makes sense for a wealthy individual to make a lot of money by purchasing by building something to sell there. I don't know if this demand will continue.
Like I said, you need to go as an investor with the
Yes.
developer and a credible developer at a key location, and then you're catering to luxury buyers. I personally know some projects that are a combination of residential and then hotel and
Or
then
commercial,
commercial
yes.
all together.
Yes.
And then these towers on the seaside, I see they're always getting sold
We
out.
have a big client who is building a community. They are building basically 2 big towers with a common pool, common facilities, and some apartments and some small housing within the village. That will work, I think, because the developer or the investment will make a lot of money on something unique like that, because these are unique projects. So something like that for Limassol, yes. Now, if we go to Paphos, for instance, investors started building hotels. They started building not towers, but big projects with units, nice student units. It's a good investment opportunity there because there are some new universities relocating or having branches in Paphos, so the demand for that will rise. I can see Paphos more beachfront, of course, beachfront houses.
Villas, luxury.
Luxury villas.
They're
yes.
always sold in Paphos. There's always a market for that. How about hotels?
I'm not sure about hotels because Paphos has many hotels, has many big hotels, and I don't know if there is room and if these hotels are fully occupied every year, because we have very luxurious
The city
hotels
that is
there.
always fully occupied, when I check online, is Limassol.
Yes.
And I think for Limassol there is space for
Yes, for
mid-range
hotels,
hotels,
yes.
boutique hotels, luxury hotels. There is a market all year round because there are so many conferences. So we go to conferences. If you want to go to a conference and stay in the hotel of the conference, usually you don't find a room. And you don't find hotels close by.
For investors listening, it's also important to know that Limassol has domestic demand for luxury hotels as well. So couples, families, all year round, they decide to go for a weekend and stay in a nice hotel in Limassol.
Yes,
so you
and
have this
the
as well.
conferences as well.
Yes, yes.
When you go from
Local
for
conferences,
seminars,
not only
yes,
international.
Yes. So we like to stay in Limassol. The locals like to go and stay
Yes.
for the weekend because it's beautiful, it's different, you have the beach. How about investing in Larnaca then, if we covered Paphos?
Okay, Larnaca is a sweet spot for apartment buildings, of course, and maybe for towers, because now there is a big demand for units in Larnaca, and of course, we see now very nice block of flats being built everywhere with the highest standards, okay, and very modern. So I think now is the time for investors to go and build in Larnaca. And of course, Larnaca has traditionally had its hotels which are not up to date. So I would expect, this is why Radisson Hotel built 2 units there in Larnaca, because there aren't modern or up to standard hotels in Larnaca.
And they're when I check the rooms in some hotels there, seaside, actually they are highly priced for what they offer.
They are very old hotels.
Very few options. Some new ones. I was checking the prices because I don't normally stay in Larnaca, but sometimes I have something to do there. I want to stay overnight. And actually it's not so cheap anymore because it's not so much availability.
So there is demand for quality hotels in Larnaca. That's why some foreign chains came and invested in Larnaca and have built 1 or 2 hotels there. And of course, we don't have any towers in Larnaca, and I would expect to see some. So an investor, I think, will not lose by building a big tower in Larnaca, because the seafront of Larnaca is very big. And if you build a tower, you have endless obscured seaside views. So this is what I would do if I was an investor.
And let's not forget, Larnaca is the airport city. So a lot of people, they pass through Larnaca.
It's convenient.
So they might want to stay 1 night, 2 nights, and then go to another country. Or it's convenient because you arrive to Cyprus, the big airport is Larnaca. So yes, great ideas, all of them. Let's go into lifestyle. And I want us to rate the cities a bit. As Cypriots, experienced Cypriot professionals, business owners, Kyriakos, you are more experienced in Nicosia and Paralimni, Famagusta area, and of course you've had
we have
your
an
offices
office
in Limassol as well. And I'm more experienced. Of course, I'm from Nicosia, but I've lived in Limassol and I've lived in Paphos recently as well. So let's talk about the lifestyle. What would you expect in Nicosia as a lifestyle?
It's a calm outing with friends, to a bar, to a nice restaurant, have a nice wine in a nice neighborhood, eat quality food, but you don't expect to feel a buzz. You don't expect to see too many people walking at the same direction.
It's a little
packed,
down to
earth people in their own narrow way of thinking.
Yes. For me, I feel this a lot. Nicosia is more reserved. If you go to Limassol, people are more open because they have so many internationals living with them.
The locals are more open. The
yes,
internationals are not open.
The locals,
say,
yes. But Nicosians are reserved, and I see it more as a family city, like a traditional Cyprus family. They keep the customs, like everyone will go to their parents and eat at lunch, and the grandkids will go to their
some
grandparents.
People might say this is a very nice thing. Others might say it's
very
too
traditional.
It's a calm capital where you can find quality, have peace of mind, and of course it has much less traffic than the contender, of course, of lifestyle, which is Limassol.
Personally, I love the fact that when I come to Nicosia, nothing has changed with regards to the culture of Cyprus. It's the same.
I will tell you what has changed,
strong.
and it's very nice. Like the rest of Cyprus, local guys, local girls, they are into sports now. So you can see a lot of runners in all the parks. You can see a lot of runners in the morning. You can see people cycling. You can see people doing sports, paddle, tennis, basketball. So Nicosia has a vibe, but you don't see it because it's a more round city. There are activities everywhere, but you won't see them driving. You need to know where to go. That's a good one. You need to know where to go to get what you want in Nicosia. You cannot just drive around and find answers, whether to a restaurant, to an activity, to an outing with your family, with your girlfriend, or to a good night out with friends.
Yes. I would say with regards to the sports activities, because I was always athletic, 20 years ago I was maybe one of the 5 people running in the park, but now the parks have upgraded, and you see so many people taking walks, running. The gyms in Nicosia are on another level.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say that, and very well priced. You cannot compare to the gyms in Paphos and Limassol, not yet, on another level. The gyms always full. The bodies of Nicosians are always taken care of these days.
Yes.
So I love that.
So let's talk about Famagusta. Famagusta is much cheaper than all the cities we've talked about because it's not a city actually. These are the towns. So we have Paralimni, we have Ayanapa, and we have some villages that comprise of Famagusta. We're talking about free Famagusta because part of Famagusta is occupied by the Turkey when we have borders at Famagusta. So in Famagusta, you have the village lifestyle, but because Famagusta is so much visited, not only by tourists, which comes into the millions year on year, but also by locals, they are modern villages. So you can have modern coffee shops, modern restaurants, high quality things to do, bars, etc.
You even have a beautiful marina in Ayanapa.
You have another marina being built at Protaras, and of course, all the summer destination spots are amazing. So you can live there for 6 months and feel like a king because you eat well, you swim well, you indulge yourself, you see the sea, you get the breeze, you have a beautiful pathway that connects all the seaside from Protaras to Ayanapa, and you can really have a nice holiday, a nice quality of stay if you're staying permanently there. And of course, let's not forget, because Famagusta is so much visited by tourists, and there are so many activities going on. Every month, every week, there are events, whether these are for kids, whether these are for tourists, whether these are for the restaurants, whether these are for the internationals who live there, there's always a buzz. The drawback, of course, is that, as all summer destinations, in the winter is empty. Having said that, it's empty for 4 to 5 months. It's quiet for 4 to 5 months, where you only be encountering locals and the few residents who live in these villages, which are primarily the Paralimni village, Ayanapa, and the other villages close by.
Let's go to Paphos. Paphos is like living in a postcard of a beautiful, cute, small city with a beach, with cute little restaurants, with fish taverns, friendly people. It's like that. It's like a chill vibe. Don't expect any vibrant business community, but expect to eat from the local farmers, fresh organic food, fresh fish, to find a warmth. If you want a slower pace, if you want to live in your villa in the mountains with a nice sea view and eat natural foods and not have like a very big business community or noise, Paphos is amazing. For me, it's like a retreat.
It's a retreat where you don't have a lot of interaction with other people.
You don't.
The business community is very little there, if there is one. And of course, it's a destination for tourists. So
Yes.
It's packed. Paphos is really nice and beautiful in the summer because it has a lot to offer to tourists of all ages. It has an adventure side of it. It has a cultural side of it. It has beautiful hotels. It's very good to mention that Paphos has the biggest hotels because they spread on the land, so they're not towers.
And amazing luxury awarded hotels. Like the
Yes.
luxury of the hotels in Paphos is incredible.
But in the winter, of course, it's quiet. And don't forget that Paphos is the smaller city of Cyprus, and the residents of Paphos are scattered everywhere. So it feels very lonely in the winter. So if you are okay with this, then Paphos could be the right city for you.
When I lived in Paphos, I felt that I was living in a holiday town. But then, as you said, you feel that you don't have interaction with people. So I used to take my car and go to Limassol all the time.
Yeah.
So let's go to Limassol, my favorite city.
Yes.
Overall, as a business owner who wants a network. So Limassol has a buzz. It has a vibe. It's something else. The moment you enter the city, you feel that buzz. You feel like you are in a place that is constantly developing. You see the towers, you see the beach, you see the nice marina, lots of traffic. You need to be very comfortable with the Russian community because it's very big and they are everywhere in all the business events.
In all the restaurants, in all the coffee shops, on the roads, you see that.
Yes, and they feel very comfortable in Limassol, very comfortable with Limassolians. And as Cypriots, because we share the same religion, the Orthodox religion, with most of the Russian-speaking people, we have a good balance with the Russians. You have a lot of activities to do, from beach activities to mountain activities to hiking. Like everything is close to Limassol, and the two airports of Cyprus are also close to Limassol, 30 minutes each, the Paphos and Larnaca airport. And if you want that more upscale luxury lifestyle with the luxury restaurants, the towers, but also in 15 minutes be at a village outside Limassol and be at a beautiful tavern, you have that, but of course you have that at a much higher cost than the other cities. So for me, it's like the Miami of Cyprus. That's how I would call it.
It is,
Limassol.
as long as you don't go into the narrow streets of Limassol behind the big towers, where you're going to see very old houses, very bad infrastructure, poor quality and old road works. It's a bit dirty as well in the neighborhoods. And
Yeah.
these are comments actually we're getting a lot from our audience here at FinHub, that more could take place in Limassol to make it pretty. It's not only the facade of the big towers and the coastline, but the Limassol city itself, between the coastline and the mountains, needs to be repaired and needs to also be beautiful. You haven't mentioned the universities there, which are also contributing to the old city of Limassol and where the castle is. There are some students now. The technological university has relocated to Limassol over the last 10 years, I think. So there are a lot of clever students enjoying the city. The old city where they do events, there is a bus for students as well. So Limassol is quite diverse, and you're right. There is a business community, there is a students community, there is an international community from all countries, primarily though Russians. And of course you have the locals who have integrated with the internationals. They are providing services to the internationals, big law firms, big audit and assurance firms, good family offices, services, and everything. One drawback I would say about Limassol, and this is something for the mayor of Limassol, we've talked about it when we had him as guest, the deputy mayor, is the traffic and the infrastructure, because we had an office there. The traffic is ridiculous. You can be queuing for 1.5 hours just to cover a few kilometers. It doesn't make sense. It cannot accommodate more cars. And if they allow for further expansion and development, it has to be outside the center, because it's tragic. And for businesses, because we have many clients who are in Limassol as well, traffic and parking is an issue for the employees. They cannot find a place to park there. And of course, because of the cost of the commercial buildings, the offices are very small and people are squeezed there. So you could have rooms where you could have, 15 square meter rooms where 20 people or 12 people are working very densely. And this is all part of this uncontrolled development where everything is allowed, and of course the people there, not only the locals but also the internationals who have relocated to work for the international companies who also relocated to Limassol, are having trouble with logistical matters.
Personally, I have worked from home for many years, so I don't get to leave that traffic issue unless I have to go to an event, but it's a very big issue. I will disagree with you that Limassol is a university student city. It's not friendly to students. It's very expensive to find an apartment. For anyone watching, of course, invest into student housing. A lot of the students recently, they have been interviewed. I was watching in the news that they live in other cities. They cannot find an apartment in Limassol, and they have to drive every day to go to their lessons. So I would not brand Limassol yet as a university city.
Yeah, I didn't say it's a university. It's not a student-friendly, but it has students and it has a student life. This is what I said. So it comprises of students as well, because there are some universities and colleges as well in Limassol. But unfortunately, there is no infrastructure for students, and as you've correctly mentioned, is not a long-lasting thing, and investors shouldn't bother building student accommodations and stuff like that in Limassol.
Why?
Because
Limassol needs that.
It's going to be very expensive for the students. So, it's going to be
outside Limassol, in the outskirts, there are beautiful places and land where they build these big commercial buildings that can be turned into universities, and then student housing next to it.
So we're talking about outside Limassol.
Yes, outside, not in the center.
And to be honest, even the universities, they shouldn't be in Limassol. They should be outside of Limassol or in the outskirts where quality and cheap accommodation for students, because this is universal. Students don't have money. They are financially supported by their parents. So they cannot be living in the most expensive city of Cyprus, and the universities cannot be, established in the most expensive city of Cyprus, because then how can you afford your child to go there? Unless, of course, we're talking about, branches of international universities who are relocating to Limassol.
To wrap this up with the universities in Limassol, they started as branches of Nicosia universities to serve the locals. So the universities you have now in Limassol were just built to serve the people living in Limassol that want to go to university in Limassol.
Yes.
They are not geared to serve people coming from other cities or from abroad. So there is space for investment outside Limassol in this kind of universities and buildings. Let's go to the lifestyle of Larnaca. I want you to touch on it because for me it's very weird. In Larnaca, I cannot find so much value in the lifestyle other than the beach, which is windy. How about you? What do you think about the lifestyle?
I don't like the beach of Larnaca. I don't get it, as you've mentioned.
Me neither.
Many people don't get it. Many locals don't get it. But the internationals, let's not forget that the internationals, they're not living in an island like ourselves. They don't know how to value beautiful sandy beaches. A sea for them is as nice as, is a million times better than living somewhere in a small apartment in a concrete city, anywhere in Europe or in the world for that matter. So I get it that it's undervalued. I get it that it was an opportunity and lots of investors went, and then now lots of companies slowly are moving there. I get that lots of individuals found bargain low rentals in a city with a sea, with some international presence. But the lifestyle, I do not see a lifestyle there myself. I like the fact that there are two streets. It's the Mackenzie Street and the Finigude Street that it has tourism. Mm-hmm. Like all touristic cities, like Limassol has tourism. We haven't talked about this, but Limassol is also visited by tourists. So is Larnaca, so is Paphos, so is Famagusta. So it has this lifestyle. I would say in my mind, Larnaca is a tourist lifestyle. It doesn't have its own lifestyle. It has its own local lifestyle, which is the tavern and the fish.
Food in Larnaca is good. Yes, the taverns.
And the fish taverns. Yeah, basically, very good price, and that's why it's moving. And that's why it's moving.
It's the pricing, basically.
But we cannot talk about lifestyle, neither expensive restaurants, indulging yourself, clubs. The community of the corporate world cannot be facilitated in Larnaca because there's nothing for them to do there.
Okay, let's go into quick rating of each city on different areas out of 10. This is just for fun, okay?
It's a
personal opinion. Business community. Limassol.
10.
For me, it's 8. It has work to do. Nicosia.
3.
For me, it's 5 because it's a capital. You always have some, but it's very specific, the networking you can do in Nicosia. It's government officials. It's a little bit boring,
3.
The events. Okay.
3.
Larnaca, business community.
5 or 6.
I would go for 4. Sorry, Larnaca. Paphos, business community.
2.
I had a very big difficulty finding any business community
there is
in
no
Paphos.
Business community.
It's some digital nomads that have their own groups. The Germans are together.
Very small guys.
So, I will give 3. And then, did we leave anything behind? No. Famagusta? No.
Famagusta, it's 0.
Yes.
It's a summer destination. Mm-hmm. It's for investment of properties and for people just to live there. It's not,
Okay. Family life. We start with Limassol always. Family life?
I would say 6.
I would say 7 because it's always a beach you can take your kids, but the cost of living is very high. Nicosia?
I would say 8.
Yeah, I would say 9. Nicosia is a family city. Paphos?
You're a bit biased.
It's a family city. There's so many things to do with the kids, with the family, the schools, everything.
I would say 6.
Paphos? I would say 8. Just because there are not so many schools. The lifestyle for kids is amazing. They're into the nature all the time, beach activities.
But there's nothing to do as a family. So you are visiting one village to the other. I would put it at 6.
Okay. You can comment below and argue with us.
And don't crucify us. We love all cities. We visit all the cities. We spend a lot of time in all the cities. And we have clients in all the cities. This is just our opinion. with something ideal in mind, yes?
Yes. Best beaches.
Famagusta.
Nicosia, 0.
Nicosia, 0. Limassol.
Limassol, for me, it's 6 because there are nice beaches around Limassol, but it's not so clean because of the port. For you?
I would say 4.
Okay. Paphos, rating. 8 because some beaches are rocky, but some of them are gorgeous.
No. 8 because I'm including Lachi beaches.
Okay. Let's go to Larnaca beaches.
2.
3. I would go there just for convenience.
Let's not, guys, don't crucify us. This is our honest opinion.
The water is clean, but you just walk and walk and walk and it doesn't get deep.
It's muddy. Sand.
Yes.
It's not.
Okay, and then Famagusta beaches.
10.
Yes, I would say 10. It's clear blue waters. Then let's go to best souvlaki.
I'll give you 2.
Okay.
Larnaca and Paphos.
Okay, I disagree. I would say Nicosia is number 1 in souvlaki because I lived in Paphos and they're not so much into the souvlaki places. They're more into the fish places, which are going to go into fish. So I would say best souvlaki is Nicosia and Larnaca. Then let's go into best fish meze.
Paphos and Larnaca.
I would say Paphos and Larnaca too. We agree. Let's go into best for vegetarians and vegans.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't know. Maybe Nicosia.
Nicosia is excellent. You have such a big variety of restaurants. And Limassol is very friendly for vegans because of all these foreigners who demanded the restaurants to have a vegan
since
menu.
we're talking about Limassol, the food in Limassol is what you would expect in all European countries. So I'm not very fan of that.
Okay.
High quality steaks, the same. I can't see the touch.
You influenced me, so I would say luxury food for vegans, Limassol, but real food from nature for vegans, Paphos. You have an abundance of fresh fruits, vegetables straight from the farmers.
Okay.
The restaurants, yes. So Nicosia and Paphos. 2 cities that are winning right now. I would say my winner, even though it's expensive, my option overall is Limassol if you can afford it. Otherwise, it's a drain on your nervous system and on your confidence if you don't have enough money for Limassol. So the second winner for me for overall lifestyle and cost of living is Nicosia because I get the business community.
For me, I cannot really tell because each city is totally different and it serves a totally different purpose. So something that you might rank as 10 to someone else might be a 3. So I cannot really rank between them because they're totally different. So I cannot really say.
Kyriakos, you're cheating. You need to give me a rating.
On lifestyle?
Overall. If you put everything together, what would you choose if you could live anywhere?
It's a very subjective question. I would say Limassol, depending on how much money you have in your bank.
Yes, exactly.
But if you don't have money in Limassol and you cannot afford to live there and you're stuck in traffic for 1.5 hours just to go somewhere and you don't have any place to take your children at private schools or the facilities are more than 100 or 120 per month, would I choose Limassol for lifestyle?
I said, it's a drain on your nervous system when you cannot afford the city and when you don't have the facilities.
It depends on who you are. So, and to be honest, because they don't have a very nice seaside, I wouldn't choose it because I wouldn't be swimming in those waters.
Okay, I disagree with you. There are places around Limassol where the waters are beautiful. If you are in Limassol, you can do water sports like SUP. You don't even need to enter the water. You take your board and you slide on the water. So, let's go now to the cost of living comparison, rentals, and overall having a good quality of life. For me, a good quality of life is a nice apartment, at least, or a house if you have a family.
It's very important that in this analysis, we do not talk about families. We talk about units or a couple without children because we do not, the cost of services such as play kits, such as private classes after school or schooling costs are not factored in this analysis.
Okay.
It's very important because if you couple this together, maybe it's an extra 2,000 a month per child or 1,500.
Yes.
It will distort the whole analysis. So we're talking about couples without children or individual units.
So if we focus on the rental costs and then you add up the rest of the living costs, according to the Department of Lands and Surveys rental market report for March 2025, in Limassol, an average one bedroom is 1,250, a two bedroom 1,650. We're talking about average, not luxury apartments or high quality apartments, much higher priced. And a three bedroom starts from 2,300. And then if you go to Nicosia, 50% less. One bedroom starts at 675 euro, a two bedroom 1,000 euro, a good quality two bedroom, and then a three bedroom 250. Then Paphos, in the nice area in Larnaca, for me it's my favorite area because it's close to the beach and to the town. One bedroom 600, two bedroom 750, and three bedroom 975. I've lived in a beautiful house with a pool in Larnaca, and it's very well priced. Like, cannot compare to Limassol. It would be double or triple to live in Limassol. Then Larnaca, for a one bedroom 750, it's right now in Larnaca.
So it has pushed up a lot since the last 3-4 years.
Especially around the Mackenzie area, the central area where you don't need a car, it's very expensive. For me, I wouldn't, for me, it's not worth it, but somebody who doesn't have a car, is a foreigner.
Yeah, they're saving on the car.
Yes.
That's why.
Then a two bedroom 950 and a three bedroom 1,375. And then a Napa for a one bedroom 675 is exactly the same as Nicosia. You see how cheap Nicosia is as a city? And then a two bedroom 900 euro and a three bedroom 1,150. The trends we have for 2025 is that in Limassol, the rents jumped even more to 10 to 20% more than the previous 6 months. Then Larnaca is up 8 to 10%, driven by Israel and EU relocations. Nicosia is rising but slower. Paphos remains very affordable and stable. Famagusta, again, is stable. Anything else you want to mention about the cost of living?
Yes, I think in Aia, Napa and Paralimni, you can get cheaper prices for your rents depending on when you go and you do your research. So if you go during the peak periods, of course, in the summer, the rents will be as high as you've mentioned. But if you go in the winter, I'm sure you can save several hundreds. Maybe you can find something for 500 euros or even 450 in the winter and rent it long term. Because those two areas are touristic areas, and the prices are affected on when you go and you make a deal with the property owner.
Okay, so what do you think for a family of 4? You have a family of 4. Overall, cost of living to have a good quality of life for each city. Just give me a number.
Overall?
Yes, the total amount of both incomes, if there are two incomes in the family, to have a good quality of life, a nice apartment, be able to go like once in a while for vacation.
I would start with Paphos. I would say that Paphos is a less needy city. So in Paphos, I think anything more than 3,500, you are fine.
Mm-hmm.
The next needy, I'm saying needy in terms of the family needs, I would expect that to be Larnaca. So I would say there again, 3,500 onwards, you're fine. Then I would say Nicosia, you will need more than 4,000 or 4,500 just to have an...
We're talking about the basic amount to be comfortable.
More than 4,000 or 4,500, you're fine. And then, of course, Limassol, for a family, I would say definitely more than 6,000.
Yes.
Because it's also the activities of the children, the schools of the children, the rest. Basically, Limassol is 50% or 30% more expensive than the other cities.
I would say that the amounts you give are without private schools.
Yes.
Because if you put private schools in Limassol for 2 kids, driving around and everything, I believe it's 10,000.
Yeah, of course. Because 1,000 per kid per month is the private tuition. So
yes.
And look, we are in Cyprus and we're talking about a combined income of 6,000 for locals to be able to live in their city. These are big numbers. So it's very hard for locals who are not working in big corporations, who are not doing something sophisticated or something that pays really well right now, like being an IT person, being a lawyer, being an accountant, being an architect, being, I don't know, something to do with the developing, or a professional service provider. These are salaries which are hard to be achieved, 6,000 by the ordinary families. That's why there's so much frustration, especially by Limassol people who are not dealing with the corporate world of Limassol. So there are two speeds in Limassol when locals are concerned. There are those local people who are servicing all these internationals, and of course they're getting remunerated from it. So 6,000 for them as a family is nothing, and they can afford the lifestyle. But there's also the local community who is not interacting with the corporate world of Limassol. They're interacting with other Cypriots or with basic services and goods. And for those is a struggle, I believe. And it's very unfortunate for those people.
I think there is a struggle around Cyprus right now because the cost of living has risen, especially like we said
over
in
the
Limassol.
Last 10 years.
Yes, especially the last 5 years. And the salaries have not increased so much. In Nicosia, I know experienced people in key positions that get €1,500 and they're raising 2 kids on their own, for example.
Yes,
women.
very hard.
Very hard. So what do you think is the solution to this issue as an accountant? Because you have servicing, you have so many clients you're servicing, companies, they pay out salaries. What do you think is the solution? Rising cost of living, but not so rising salaries. You are forced to pay higher salaries now to your employees, to hire people.
So this is the chicken and the egg question. So we of course want to increase more the salaries of our employees, but then this means that we'll have to increase equivalently the fees to our clients. Is this sustainable? Can we increase the fees of all of our clients by 20%, for instance? I mean, we did that 5 years ago, I think, and maybe we need to readjust them as well, which will be fair for the international corporates and the international clients, because they're dealing with bigger sizes, bigger clients themselves, bigger fees themselves, so they don't have a problem paying their accountant or their lawyers or their architects 20% more. But we need to increase these fees to our local clients as well, which are not dealing with big tickets.
You cannot say I will charge the Russians differently and the Cypriots differently. It's not fair.
It's not fair. Maybe you can do it in a discreet manner, but so I think the society and the politicians need to think this issue, because inflation cannot be sustained. Inflation needs to be fighted. And if with the amount of growth that Cyprus is going, I'm afraid that all the cities will be impacted severely by a new wave of inflation. Because all this demand for housing means demands for groceries at the supermarket, means more demand for petrol or more demand for, fruits. So if the supermarket sells everything without effort, they will increase the prices. For instance, if every developer, whatever they build, goes off the shelf, off plan, with minimum marketing, it means why not increasing the prices? So, we are shooting ourselves on the foot. We need to take as a society measurable and calculated practical steps to avoid all this. One way of avoiding them is, of course, building outside the cities, decentralizing everything so that there's less traffic, less demand, so that other communities take advantage of the ecosystem that will be created, etc., etc. we need specials to advise us as Cyprus on this.
Yes, we need to bring in economists who understand these trends.
Yes, and to give us practical steps and solutions.
Yeah. What I can say from personal experience is that in Limassol, not only accountants and lawyers increase their fees, which you have to, and every company needs to give higher salaries. Even the small services, the hair salon, the nails, like as ladies, the gyms,
yes.
They had to raise their prices over the past 5 years because they cannot afford to pay their employees, to pay the rents. So when you go to Limassol, everything is more expensive and it's not sustainable to the locals who keep getting the same salary. It's sustainable to the wealthy foreigners. So then you get some salons that only Russians go to, these hair salons and nail salons and spas, and then Cypriots go.
Maybe that's the solution in a free market. That's a solution. It doesn't look good, but unfortunately, Cyprus had two choices. It could remain like any other Greek island with no business activity, depending only on tourism. Mm-hmm. So we could be only the 700,000 of us or the 1 million of us just catering, the tourism. Or to choose the model we have chosen where we attract businesses because we decided we also want to be a financial center, not only a summer resort or destination.
I think these are growth pains that we need to deal with right now as an island. And I think we can really get on the other side because Cypriots have always been entrepreneurial. They overcame so many crises through the centuries and so many changes. I think we have it in our DNA to be really resilient.
And also things are measurable. So we can know to the last individual how many properties were sold, to non-Cypriots. We can pinpoint how many Russians live in Cyprus. We have the data. It's a matter of collecting them and making some conclusions and taking some political decisions. Do we want Limassol to be overpopulated? Do we want to not be able to drive and go anywhere between 3 to 7 because it's impossible to drive in Limassol? Do we want to pay for a haircut, 40 euros or 30 euros, or for you girls, I don't know how much.
40 euro is only in Nicosia. It's in Nicosia. In Limassol, it's 100 euro for a haircut now.
I mean, the children activities, can I afford to be paying, I don't know, per month, maybe 100 euros or 80 euros or 140 or 20 euros per month for my kid to play football 2 or 3 times a week? These questions are for the politicians who they need to start thinking about this because we are heading to a new wave of inflation. We see it is our job. FinHub, all of our users at FinHub and ourselves as an audit and assurance firm, and of course your clients who want to buy properties, they are all relocating here. They are all coming. I mean, we are dealing with lots of relocation as a firm. FinHub is dealing all the time with relocation inquiries. All these people are causing inflation. We need to be proactive because the years go by, hundreds of new residents are added to the existing population, and without a way of thinking and processing how things will work, we will shoot again ourselves. We might be happy now that we are selling expensive flats, we're getting paid higher fees. But if we are not able to live a quality life where everything is affordable, all these are irrelevant because we're destroying something beautiful that we have here.
Yes. So we are the voice of Cyprus through this podcast.
Yes, and we're trying to make a change, and let's try to make a change, all of us.
To push things by being your voice as well.
Yes.
If you're watching
so
us.
Please add the comments. Tell us if you want to bring other guests. We're trying to bring other guests as well with power to influence circumstances and make this island a better place to live and work.
We often get asked, why don't you ever recommend investing in the north, in the occupied north? I will never call it North Cyprus, so we have to include this section in this podcast. The north part of Cyprus, yes, is cheaper, but it's for a reason. It's because buying a property there is illegal under Cyprus and EU law.
It's cheap because nobody purchase what they will sell. They have occupied the land and they are giving it at the selling price.
Yes. They are selling something they stole.
And it does not belong to them. Mm-hmm. That's why it's cheap. So if you want to be part of the crime, if you want to continue this injustice, of course you can purchase land from someone who does not legally own it. And that will come with adventures, of course, because we have many cases where the sellers of this land or even the purchaser of such lands are getting prosecuted locally and internationally.
And you can find these cases online. Yes. I mean, now we have a few public cases that we can mention because when you go there, they will tell you totally different things and a lot of lies because they occupied something that they tried to sell off before there is a solution. But when there is a solution, you also get in trouble, but you get in trouble even now. So we have the case now of Awakenspace, high-value developer under criminal trial for deals involving Greek Cypriot land in Famagusta in Kyriakos, and he's been arrested and prosecuted in the Republic of Cyprus.
We have the Hungarian brokers who were convicted in 2025, 2 women jailed by Cyprus courts for facilitating property sales in the north.
We have the case of Affordability versus Orams, a British couple which had to demolish their villa in the north and return the land to its rightful owner with Cyprus court judgment enforceable across the EU. And there are even people prosecuted now across the EU for building and selling in the north. We have any other cases?
Yes, we have a very famous case, of course, Loizidou versus Turkey, one of the first rulings affirming that displaced Greek Cypriots retain legal title even though the property is under occupation. This is a fundamental case for all the rest of the cases. Loizidou case, please Google it, find it, so that you are also confident and certain that if you intend to purchase anything in the north side, it's illegal. And of course, even if you pay the money, you cannot be the legal owner of that property, that unit, or whatever you want to buy there.
Great. Final verdict, Kyriakos, we have to wrap this up. Best city for business?
Limassol.
Best city for investors right now?
Larnaca, Paphos.
Best city for lifestyle?
I cannot comment.
It depends. Lifestyle is very personal. We gave you a lot of information to understand where it's best for you, best for families right now.
Nicosia.
And Paphos for me, I believe. Okay. Best for young entrepreneurs?
I would say...
let me say Limassol and Nicosia, because Nicosia has a startup community and Limassol has a lot of events and movements. And then best value for money overall right now.
I will rank them: Nicosia, Paphos, Larnaca. I think.
Okay, I will leave this on to you. You are the financial expert here. So Cyprus might be small, but it's growing very fast, and the locals are feeling the growth. They're excited. There are growth challenges. Now, what we do here at FinHub is we offer you the top service providers in Cyprus. If you are looking for an accountant, a lawyer, an immigration expert, property experts, we have this platform where we match you with experts. All you need to do is go to finhub.com.cy. You fill in the form with exactly what you need. You place your request, and then you start getting quotes from licensed, vetted locals, and you don't need to look on your own and go on the internet and try to figure out who will help you. Of course, we are part of the experts on the platform, but there are many other legal accounting firms and experts that you can check their websites, see who they are, and choose the right service provider for you.
I'm Kyriakos Tramountanellis.
I'm Pavlina Papalouka. We're very happy to have you here. If you stayed until the end, please leave your comments below, subscribe, because we have a lot more episodes coming up around living in Cyprus, relocating to Cyprus, the news, the new developments. We bring local authorities.
Or having adventures with Cyprus authorities, needing help in tax, legal counsel, we can cover you because FinHub has all these providers who can assist you. So feel free to visit the website, put your inquiry in, and within a couple of days, sometimes within a few hours, you will get responses from the registered, vetted professionals who will be more than happy to assist you within the price range that you want to place. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at our next episode.